Hi everyone, and welcome along to this month's Xero tip. For this month, I'm going to be going through the process of creating a batch payment to pay a whole heap of suppliers out of Xero. So, the process for doing this, there's a couple of setup stages that you need to deal with before you can go and actually create the batch. The main one is going through your suppliers and just checking that all of the bank details have been loaded ahead of time. So if you go to your contacts and supplier list, have a look through the list and you can see anyone that you currently owe money to, and they're the main ones that you need to be checking to make sure that the bank details have been included. So if I click on this supplier here, I can quickly tell if I have added bank details to this supplier previously because they would be showing down in this area here. This one isn't showing any bank details, so I need to go to Edit, and then from the Edit screen, Financial Details. In this screen, fill out the bank account name. So this is the name that the supplier has asked you to put in when you're sending payments to them. Put in the supplier's bank account number. This should be on the invoice that they've sent you. And then you can put in whatever particulars, code, or reference that you want to appear on their bank statement. Now, this here can be whatever you want it to be if there's no particular guidance. If they've given you a customer number, then definitely put that in there because that's the most useful thing for them when they're trying to match payments later on. You can put in their GST number, but it's not essential for batch payments. Once you've made the change, click Save and Close to finish, and you can then go back to your contacts list and work on the next one. Once you've got the bank account details sorted, the next stage is going to choose which bills you want to pay. So let's go to Bills to Pay, and then Awaiting Payment. Now, this file is my demo file. It's only got 12 bills in it, so this is quite easy. You may have a lot more than 12. You can increase the selection up to 200 if you need to. But bearing in mind, if you have more than 200 bills that you're trying to select, you will have to put those in separate batches. You can't select more than 200 per batch. You can either individually tick the bills you want to pay, or you can just tick at the top to select the lot of them and then remove any that you want to. Now click on Batch Payment. Xero will tell you how many items you've chosen to pay. You can then click OK to take you to the next screen. In this screen, you can see the payment date. So you're choosing what date you want to pay this batch. It doesn't have to be the same date that you're running the batch. It could be a date in the future. Next is choosing which bank account this payment is coming from. Now, this is crucial, particularly if you bank with more than one provider, because the way this file will be formatted will be based on the bank you are with. So please make sure you get this right. Then you can put the particulars, code, and reference that you want to appear on your statement. Now, if there are any suppliers that are missing details, they will show up in here, and you'll see that the bank account numbers for these ones are missing. I can go in and type these as need be, and I can also update any of the details in here. If the supplier that you're paying prefers to have the invoice number as a reference, you can also add those in here based on the reference numbers that are over here. One other note before we hit the Make Payments button is this payment area down here allows you to do part payments with your batches. So if, say for example, you only want to pay a deposit on a particular bill or a part payment, you can override the amount here so that it's only paying the set amount that you wish to pay. If there's a bill in here that you decide, actually, I don't want to include it in the batch because it's a direct debit or it's something that's not due till later, you can just click on the X button to remove it from the list. Once you click Make Payments, it will then create a batch very similar to this. From this screen here, you can either add attachments to it. So say if you had an approval email or some other form of approval process and you wanted to add the documentation here, you can do that. You can also export the batch file. Now, when you export this file, it will export it in the format that the bank you are dealing with needs. So that's why it's crucial that you choose the right one. You can also print a PDF if you need someone to sign it, and if they are signing it by hand, you can then scan it back in afterwards if you want to. You can also edit the batch or just remove and redo it to get rid of it completely. Once the batch has been matched to a particular transaction, you will not be able to edit it from that point. You can, if need be, unmatch it and then edit it after the fact, but ideally you want to make sure that this is right before you do any reconciling. If you've exited from the screen and you need to come back to the batch file to download it or edit it or whatever that is, the easiest way to find it is to go to the bank account that you said was going to pay the batch, clicking on the bank account name here. And conveniently, mine's already at the top because of how my sorting is. If yours isn't showing like this, click on the status option here until you have the arrowhead pointing up, and then you'll be able to see the batch payment because it will be an unreconciled line in your Xero file bank account. So if we click on this file here, we can now export this, print, and all the other options that we had before. The other thing to remember is when you export this batch file and import it into your bank account, most banks have the option where you can tick to include or show the payments as one line or multiple lines. Try where possible to choose the option to show as a single line, because if you leave it as multiple lines, each of these individual transactions will come through as individual lines in your bank feed, which you won't be able to match to this batch file. If it comes through as one line, it's a one-to-one match, nice and easy. If your bank doesn't have that facility or there's any issues with that for whatever reason, you can, after the batch has been processed, come back into it using the same process we just did there and go remove and redo to get rid of the batch, and then you can match those lines off like you would do normally. Hope that all makes sense. If you have any questions, let us know, and if there's any topics you'd like us to cover, please let us know as well. Thank you.